Hi everyone, welcome to day 6 of our year of yoga for those following along at home. Starting in the seated position today, we're just going to take a few moments to have some deep breaths here as we tune in to our inner self and take a big inhale as we take our gaze above our head, bringing our hands to heart space. Just setting an intention for today. Taking another big deep breath in as we raise the hands above the head and then bending to the right side, taking that left arm overhead, breathing in and exhaling as we go to the opposite side. Bringing that right arm overhead, breathing in, exhaling to the other side, getting that nice side stretch in our obliques, breathing in and exhaling to the opposite side. And do this one more time, in tune with your own breath. And then coming back to center, breathing in as we raise both arms up, exhaling as we forward fold over our crossed legs. And just dropping the head down here so it's nice and heavy. You might want to keep your arms out long, or you can fold them under your head. I'm just going to walk out to the right side and get a bit more of a deeper stretch. And then walking our hands back to center before crossing over to the left side. Continuing to breathe here. Coming back to center and slowly walking our hands back up as we cross our legs over to do the other side. Breathing in, exhaling, forward fold. Taking some deep breaths here. And then walking the hands over to the left side. Breathing in, exhaling, coming back to center. Over to the right side. Another deep breath in here. And exhaling as we come back to center, and then slowly walking the hands back to the body. I'm just going to go into butterfly legs here. So bringing the soles of the feet together, taking the knees out wide and hooking the hands underneath the hands and stretching up through the spine. So straight arms, pulling the shoulders away from the ears. Just getting a beautiful elongation through the body. You might want to rock side to side here, pushing the knees down towards the floor. And then we're just going to come into the cross-legged glute stretch. Breathing in and exhaling as we forward fold over the knees. And just resting the head lightly on that top knee. Should feel a beautiful stretch through the glute here. Taking a few rounds of breath at your own pace. And when you're ready, you can slowly unravel out of this pose. We're going to change legs over. Do the other side. Breathing in and exhaling as we melt over the top of our legs. This pose, this stretch always feels very juicy for me. I absolutely love it. I always come out of it feeling so much looser. There's less tension around my hips and my glutes. I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I do. Just taking a couple more breaths here. And just slowly rolling out of this position. Taking your time as we come into tabletop. Just going to roll through some cat-cows. So making sure the fingers are spread, hips are above the knees, shoulders above the wrists. Breathing in as we take the head and the gaze high, and then breathing out as we come into the cat pose. Breathing in into cow, really trying to dip that stomach towards the earth before rolling through to cat, curving that back. Breathing in to our cow position. Exhaling into cat. Breathing in for cow. Exhaling for cat position. Coming back to neutral spine, we're going to untuck the toes. Well, we're going to, tuck the toes and come into our first downward facing dog. And if it feels good for you to pedal out the legs, then do that. Otherwise, feel free to find stillness in this pose. Maybe nodding the head. Continuing to breathe as we lower the knees to the floor. We're going to come into child's pose. So heels together, knees go as wide as the mat, and we sink those hips back to our heels. And then take the chest towards the earth, resting our forehead on our mat with our arms stretched long. Just taking a moment to relax into this pose. So when we transition through our routine today, we are going to come through our downward facing dogs into child's pose, just to be a little bit kinder on our spine. I don't know about you, but I'm still feeling quite tight in my hips and lower back and thoracic. Just coming out of this pose into our downward facing dog again. You might want to take your chest to your knees, a little added stretch. I'm just going to kick that left leg back long now. And then opening up the hips, bending that leg. Bringing it back long before tucking it forward and bringing it between the hands as we come into our warrior one pose. Arms above the head. You can look straight ahead, or you can take your gaze high towards your hands. And then turning into warrior two as we sink down into this pose. Dropping the shoulders away from the ears. Making sure that front knee is not going past the toes. Flipping the front palm and then bringing that left arm up overhead And just breathe before we transition over to the other side. Taking the hands back to the mat, kicking that left leg long, right leg between the hands, coming up into our warrior one. Exhaling into warrior two. Taking the gaze past the fingers. And then flipping that front palm. Bringing the right arm overhead, sliding the left hand down the left leg. And then coming into our bended side pose. Left arm long, taking the gaze up towards the sky or the roof. Resting that right arm on the right leg. Continuing to breathe. And then coming back into our warrior two before windmilling the hands into warrior three. Again, you can leave your hands in this position on the ground or lose your balance. Stretching out the leg long, the arms long, trying to get more parallel with the ground if you can. And then coming back into our Tadasana, grounding down, feeling the energy coming through the roots of our feet, through our body. Should be starting to feel nice and warm through the body, feeling that heat being generated. Big deep breath in as we bring the hands up above head, hands into prayer position as we now take the legs back, come back into our downward facing dog. And then drop into the knees before coming back into our child's pose. And just taking a moment to release any tension. Really relaxing into this pose. And continuing to breathe. Coming back into tabletop position now. We're going to go into our downward facing dog. Taking the hips high. And then moving our left hand between our legs. We're going to run through our warrior poses again. So coming into warrior one, transitioning to warrior two, reverse warrior, transitioning into our side pose, and then windmilling the arms, hands to earth, coming into warrior three. And then coming back into Tadasana. And then from Tadasana, kicking the opposite leg back this time, going straight into our warrior one as we change sides. Exhaling, warrior two. Readjust the legs and the position of the feet if you need to. Flipping that front palm into reverse warrior. And then bringing that right arm onto our right leg, left arm long. Taking our gaze upwards in that beautiful twist in the torso. And then windmilling our hands, or our arms to earth, coming into warrior three. And then bringing the feet to meet each other, coming back into Tadasana. Take a deep breath in as we raise our arms above our head, taking our gaze upwards as we bring our hands to prayer position, forward folding as we place both hands onto the ground, coming back into downward facing dog before dropping to our knees into our child's pose position. If you're finding this child's pose is a little bit challenging on the knees, then you can do a closed-legged child's pose where you bring the legs together underneath the body and the arms go down by the sides. Or feel free to place a block or a blanket underneath the sit bones, which can often take a little bit of the pressure off the knees as well. And then coming back into tabletop and meeting in downward facing dog. I'm going to walk both feet closer to our hands now and come into a yoga squat. So taking the feet out on a 45-degree angle, taking the legs wide. I'm just going to turn to face you guys, but you can stay facing the top of your mat. Just trying to get some lengthening in the spine in this pose, and then also pushing our legs out with our arms. Then bringing our hands to the ground as we slowly roll up into the standing position. We're now going to come into tree pose, so grounding down through our left leg. And you might want to start by placing the heel of the right leg on the ankle of the left or the calf of the left, or you can bring it all the way up to the thigh. Breathing in as we take our hands above head and then bring them down to our heart center. Just finding some balance and strength in this pose. And remember to smile and take yoga too seriously. You can see I'm definitely not perfect and I stumble sometimes. As we revel out of this pose, we're going to do the other side now. So starting with the left leg, bringing it up to the calf muscle or all the way to the quad. Breathing in, bringing hands to heart center. If you fall out like I did, just come straight back into the pose. And taking one last breath here. Bringing the knee forward and then coming back into a standing position. Breathing in, taking the hands high, forward folding, and coming back into downward facing dog. My legs are always so tight, so I love pedaling in downward facing dog. And then let's transition back into our child's pose. Continue to breathe deeply into the rib cage here, really expanding the diaphragm. And then slowly coming out as we tuck the toes back into downward facing dog. And then coming into tabletop position as we roll onto our bottom into a V-sit position. Bringing the knees towards the chest, arms out long. I'm just going to hold this for a moment. And then if you want to, you can extend the legs out and the body out and in. If this does not feel good on your back though, just go back to holding the V-sit position. This is very good for strengthening the abdominals. And then slowly we're just going to come down onto our back and taking that left leg, bending the knee up towards the chest and then over the right leg that's stretched out on the floor. You take that right arm and gently pull the left knee towards the earth. And our left arm is stretched out to the opposite side. You should feel a nice twist in the lower back as we bring our knees in towards our chest before crossing over to the other side. Left leg long, right leg's bent up and over the left, and our right arm extends long as we use our left hand to gently pull the right knee towards the earth. Breathing into that lower back. And then unraveling as we pull both knees towards our chest. And you might want to do a few circles here, just to let the lower back rest. Then going in the opposite direction. Then placing both feet onto the mat. We're going into our pigeon pose. So just taking the left hand through the hole, meeting the right hand at the back of the right leg. Left leg is folded over the top of the right leg, and just pulling that right leg in towards the chest as we push the left knee away from the chest and get that beautiful glute stretch. And then changing over to the other side. Flexing both feet in this position as well. Pulling the toes back towards the head. And then taking the feet out wide now, and we're just going to windmill the legs. Just get a bit more of a stretch in that lower back. If you have any pain at all, maybe just stop doing the windmills and then just let the knees fold into the center. And we're just going to do a few hip raises here. So bringing the feet towards the bottom, raising the hips up, squeezing the glute muscles, and just holding as we continue to breathe. And then lower vertebrae by vertebrae as we curl back down onto the mat before squeezing and raising those glutes towards the ceiling and holding, clenching the butt cheeks together and then slowly rolling down. We're going to do this one more time. So inhaling as we bring the hips up. Take a couple of breaths as we hold. And then exhaling as we roll out of this position. Just bringing the knees in towards the chest again. And then we're going to take our legs long for our final resting position, Savasana. Let's take some time to make any final movements. And then let the feet fall heavy out towards the side. Palms facing up if you feel like you want to attract more abundance today, or you can flip the palms down into the mat or something to be grateful for. Have a think about that as we bring some movement back into our toes and our hands, our body. Maybe doing some rotations with our wrists and our ankles, stretching out the fingers and the hands. And congratulating yourself for being here today, giving yourself this time and space as we move into the fetal position. Celebrating your progress. And then sitting up nice and tall. Relaxing the hands on the knees. And then inhaling as we bring our hands into prayer position and raising them to our third eye. May we have kind and loving thoughts today. Lowering our hands to our lips, may we speak kind and loving words today. And then lowering our hands to our heart space, may we have kind and loving intentions today. Thank you for joining me in this practice. Wherever you are in the world, I hope something magnificent happens to you today. Namaste.